Hey guys, what's going on? I am very glad that I decided to not talk about Random League until right now, because for a number of reasons. So when they announced it, I wanted to talk about it. When they introduced modifiers and how the level system was going to work, I wanted to talk about it. And I was just like, you know what? It's been so long. I'm just going to wait until it drops. Because usually whenever I talk about something like that early on, I'm looking at it through a perspective that I'm just assuming that this is what this means, and sometimes that's not what that means, or maybe I'm going to put a lot of importance onto something that isn't necessarily that important, or it just... For the majority of time, whenever I do like videos about upcoming things, I always say it's subject to change, and this is like probably the most subject to change that I've ever seen. So I'm glad that I decided to just wait until I could get a handle of what this is, and I can talk about it and give you visuals and all the things now. This is one of the best things about having a free-to-play account. I already played I want to say 6 battles, or I've won 6 times on my free-to-play account. And the great thing about this is that this has nothing to do with how much you've spent on the game, because literally they have literally they did what Royal Trials was trying to do, they did what Mirror Match was trying to do, a mix of Mirror Match and Royal Trials. So Mirror Match, they say like, oh, we're gonna give you the same units, and it's equal playing ground, but it's not equal playing ground because the hero level is specific to your account, and the equipment level is specific to your account. So because of that, there's a skew. When somebody has a legendary equipment and you have common equipment, you're gonna lose. When somebody has a level 20 mermaid and you have a level 1 mermaid, you're gonna lose. This is kind of like Royal Trials in the sense that you get to pick your own deck, but it's also mixed with Mirror Match in the sense that it's equal. But this is actually equal. And so this is the deck screen. So this is, I'll go in order. So when you click in, this is the amount of people that are at the top. I would suggest not caring about this. This has been out for 1 day, and somebody already has 91 battles that they have won. They've lost 4 times, which means that they can continue winning for the next 3 days. I shudder to think what these totals are going to be. And then the victory, so the way that they decided to do this, and I love this. I'll start off here by saying I love the rewards. So as a person who is constantly saying buy mermaid shards, save 800 gems for, a minimum of 5 to something more mermaid shards, and that's a good value. I'm also the kind of person that would say, you know what, 500 for a crystal is also worth it because that's essentially a legendary. I would never recommend any of the Archmage chest or the pick your own choice chest, the chest of choice, I think is what it's called. I would never recommend 1100 or more for a singular legendary because you need so many legendaries. But I've thought to myself, if you wanted to spend 500 crystals, and I have on multiple occasions, if you want to spend 500 crystals or 500 gems on a crystal, a magic crystal is essentially a legendary. Like when you need duplicate copies and you start needing 9 legendaries, a crystal is a legendary. So 500 gems on a crystal is a good value. So the way that this works, it's based solely on your wins. And so essentially all you need to do is get 10 wins and you will get everything here. You will get everything on the bottom, which is a reasonable amount of things. I like that it's 4 epic shards, 6 epic shards. Those are pretty good value. Getting 2 chests are always good value because that's 1/10 of a way to a legendary. Always assume that you're probably going to get 100. Never trust that you might get 1,000 or else you'll be disappointed all the time. Just understand that you're probably going to get 100 and that you're 1/10 of the way to a legendary. And then 30,000 gold. Obviously, I don't need it on this account. But for a new account, this is really going to help you. And the way that they did this, and I love it, because it's not based on money, like actual money. To get the top rewards, all you have to do is spend 500 crystals, which you could save specifically for this event. And I would highly, highly recommend that you save 500 crystals specifically for this event. Because here is a magic crystal, so that's essentially a legendary. 100 dust is 1/10 of the way there. 200 dust is 2/10 of the way there. And then another 200 dust is another 2/10 of the way there. 500 dust is half a legendary. So not only are you getting a crystal, which is a legendary, you're getting 500 dust, which is half a legendary. And then if you get to the top, you get a legendary, and you get to select of the two which one you want. To get this chest, you have to get 6,900 trophies. This chest is amazing. Even if it was just a regular, oh, here's a legendary, that would have been fine. 500 crystals for 2.5 legendaries, and you get to pick a legendary. No, actually, it's even more than that, because then you're also getting, a minimum of 100 here and 100 here, and that's 700. That's 700 magic dust. You're 7/10 of the way to another legendary. I would highly recommend you save 500 crystals for this. Assuming that you can get to 10 wins, which I don't think is that terrible of an ask. I think that it's difficult, but I think that if you have played this game enough, I think you should be able to do it. And the fact that everybody is equivalent in every single aspect, hero level, equipment level, as long as you are able to build good decks and play well and understand that you're always going to block Demon Hunter and Riding Hood, you should be fine. So let's go into deck building. This is the deck build screen. All of this at the start will be generalized, so you'll have like a trainer for all 5 slots, and then you'll have the 5 base archer, bombardier, cold mage, fire mage, I think, or lightning mage, and you're going to have to change all of these slots, because these are all of your deck slots. You always start with 2,000 crit, and there's no way to change that. Everything is equivalent. These are your key units that you'll be using, and if you even attempt to use Crystalmancer, Gargoyle, and Ivy as your main damage dealers, you are going to lose. Always use legendaries. And in Royal Trials, where Alchemist and Lightning Mage are king, this is not. And this is another example of I'm glad that I waited. Because they're actually giving you a max level alchemist, so you could actually use Magisterium. The thing about this mode is that you have to understand whatever you are, the next talent that you are able to unlock, is that going to drastically change the unit. The reason why Alchemist is so good in Royal Trials when you're building decks is specifically obviously because of Golem, but the way that it scales against level 9 against level 9 units. So an Alchemist against a regular level 9 Inquisitor that's either Knight of Light or Knight of Darkness, the Golem is going to scale well against that because you don't have your infinite cleansing. You don't have cleansing at all in that mode. And so if you run Alchemist with Golem and they can't cleanse, you can basically outlast them. And if they can't cleanse and they get Dark Priested or King Puddinged, they either have to build a worse deck with a Portal Keeper, or they have to build they either have to build a worse deck with Portal Keeper, or they have to, or they basically just die to Dark Priest and King Pudding and like negative effects. In this mode, because you're getting an 11 talent on legendaries, most legendaries are basically going to outperform all of these other things that are not. There are some really good things in here, like the aforementioned Alchemist at level 15. You get a Chemist at level 15. I think Sharpshooter at level 15 is pretty funny. There was somebody that was trying to run a Hunter at level 15 because you get the Wild Hunt ability, and then you can just have Hunters on your field and just, they level themselves up, essentially. And that's funny, but they're not going to outperform level 11 legendaries. Level 11, you can get, like, with a Monk, not only are you getting Equilibrium, but you can also get Illumination. If you want to go Blessing Tranquility, you can do that. I think Equilibrium Illumination is still better. But getting just that second talent of Illumination makes Monk so much better than just having Equilibrium. Full boarding Monk and then not being able to do anything. With Robot, Robot is basically like the Stun Rocket is what you're using it for, but you should be using Pure Energy as well. I think Pure Energy is really good. I think that Riding Hood at 9 isn't that great. You're using Alpha Wolf and Wound Licking. I've never seen anybody run Riding Hood with the other talents. I think Tesla is much better at 11. At 9, you're using Energy Power Up. But then at 11, you get Fast Recharge. And the Fast Recharge is going to allow you to give charges to other Teslas. Because you should be running Mermaid with this deck anyway. Fast Recharge is going to allow you to give other Teslas charges that are not... there's usually one Tesla that's more convenient to merge next to than another Tesla, and this will allow you to give other charges to the other Teslas that don't have the charges. And then like even Witch is much better at level 11. Cruel Joke, if you're gonna go the negative side, if the Cruel Joke Polymorph is amazing in a robot deck, but if you are running the damage side, Gift of the Raven, Unstable Magic gives you so much late game capacity that it also pushes you into late game. Enchant Sword with Awakening double power. The Awakening is where it's at, but like double power is just that extra bonus. You're probably going to run that in Monk, which is exactly what I'm doing. And then Dryad on 11 is so much better than Dryad at just 9. Because Dryad at just 9, you would use Fairy of Growth, but with 11, you can use Gift of Nature, so that you can run the Rage side, which is what I'm doing with Bloom and Dash Blade Dancer. So essentially, I know that there's probably a lot of people watching this video that expect me to tell you the exact deck to play. And I don't necessarily know if I can do that. I can give you my list of decks, but understand that when you, even if I were to tell you, build this deck, build Monk, build Demon Hunter, build Blooming Dash Blade Dancer, build Robot Shaman, and build Spirit Master. That's not all the decks that exist. Riding Hood is probably one of the better decks as well. There is a chance for Necromancer, Sea Dog Minotaur, Necromancer. There's that deck. You could build a Banshee deck. But see, the thing is, these are the decks that I know how to play. And if you build a deck specifically just because it's quote unquote the best deck, but you don't know how to play it, then you're gonna lose. And you can't afford to lose. You can't afford to lose. You have 5 losses that you can potentially have, and that's it. And so what I would recommend is go into... So technically, there is a tournament tab now in Battle History. So you have your battles, you have worldwide battles based on arenas, but there's now a tournament side. And this is, for some reason, I think it's glitched right now. And if it's not glitched, this is weird that he fought against... Is that either this is I think this is glitched right now. Is this going to freeze my... Yeah, I think this is going to freeze my thing. Because this says that he fought against... Like, he plundered? Like, this looks like... Oh, is it a plunder? No. See, this isn't a plunder. He actually fought somebody real, but for some reason in the tournament station here, it looks like he plundered somebody. So I think this is glitched right now, but eventually you're gonna, when they realize their mistake, you're eventually going to be able to watch other people play, and just look at the damage numbers. So this is a Max Blade Dancer deck. Actually, no, it shouldn't be a Max Blade Dancer deck. Oh, this is me. I'm sorry. I see what's happening. Here we go. Eventually just look at the damage numbers and look at what obviously the high damage numbers are. This is like a Necromancer deck. It's Boreas Grindstone, which I definitely wouldn't recommend. This is a 96 million damage Crystalmancer deck. You'll go into the hundreds of millions, and you're going to want to focus on those. This is a Tesla... this is just a straight Tesla deck with Zeus. I don't think level 5 Zeus is that great. I think I would recommend Mermaid with this deck. He's probably... Oh, he's not even running Protective Field. There's no way that he can cleanse. And I think that if he could cleanse, he would probably have pushed harder than 162 million, which is obviously a lot in this mode of 2000 crit. But like, you're just going to have to go through this and look at what decks are doing really well and then watch them and see how they play. Because I'm not going to be able to explain how to play. Because even if I, like I said, even if I told you what deck to build, I wouldn't be able to tell you how to play it. And basically it would sound like the Discord when they posted, oh, build these decks. Actually, you know what? I'm going to show you that because I think it's funny. Okay, so in the Discord, they were saying like, oh, I know that you don't know what decks to build, so here's a list of examples. You should play Cultist with Shaman. It's a static deck. Place the Cultist in a cross with Portal Keeper, increase the merge rank by Dryads, and bombard the opponent with Shamans and summon monsters. Or, you could play Bruiser. It's a deck for merging. Place Bruiser as you like. Increase their merge rank by Dryad. Stack 10 eyes on the sword. This is technically how you play the deck, but that doesn't give you the nuances of the deck. Inquisitor, static deck. Put 4 Inquisitors on the same line or column as a statue. Increase their merge rank by Dryad and Scrapper. Like, there's so many different things that that go on with the deck. And I feel like if I decided to say, like, you should play Spirit Master, just place Spirit Master in the same line as a statue and increase the merge rank by Dryad and Scrapper. That's what I would sound like. And I don't necessarily want to give you that kind of information, nor can I like go into and play every single deck in order to show you how to play the deck. You kind of have to do some homework. And I know that that's not what you want to hear, but that is exactly what has to happen. Like, you have to understand, like, go into Worldwide, go into, Battle History is your friend. When you want to see how to play decks or why decks are good or why talents are good, go into Battle History, look at a thing, play the thing, and just and analyze it. Like, think to yourself, like, why did they make that move? Why is this card in this deck? Why aren't they using this card in this deck? This is all deck building. And this entire game is built around deck building. It's not about like copying something and then just playing it, because copying something and playing it doesn't show you how to play the deck. You have to play the deck in order to understand why it works or why they chose those cards. Like, if you want to play Floral Frenzy Blade Dancer and people are using Night Statue, why aren't they using Hex? Hex does infinite damage. It does, it insta-kills all monsters, right? But why would they use Night Statue instead? And if you can't answer that question, play Floral Frenzy Blade Dancer with Hex instead of Night Statue. It's also easier to use because then you don't have to necessarily run Scrapper, because you don't have to get rid of extra hexes. You could have extra hexes and it doesn't take away the effect of the hex, right? If you have Night Statue, you have to run Scrapper. It's forcing you to run a different card. Why are people choosing to do that and not running Hex? These are the deck building questions that you should have throughout the game. And I feel like most people that would ask, like, make me a deck, like, build me a deck, are the same people that over the course of the game, of the regular game, they would say, like, oh, I'm in this league, make me a deck. What's the best deck? And I could tell you what the best deck is, but you wouldn't know how to play it. And you have to understand that this game is built around deck building, and I love this mode because it's going to teach you how to deck build. It's going to teach you, like, you can go into tournament or into the tournament side and see what decks are winning, but that's not going to show you how to play it. You just kind of have to play it. You can build a deck, but you could not know how to play it. Why does Blooming Dash Blade Dancer not run Scrapper? Scrapper would allow you to get to, rank 6 and 7. Why does Inquisitor run Harley Quinn and Dryad, or why does it run Dryad and it doesn't just run Scrapper? Because if you took out Dryad, because you're leaving the Inquisitors on the field in the same spot, why would it run Dryad? Why don't you just run Scrapper? And that's another deck building question. If you try to run it without if you try to run Inquisitor without Dryad and you run it with just Scrapper, you will have games where your Scrapper hits just keep hitting a Night Statue and it never hits any of your Inquisitors. And that has the ability to happen. And the reason why Dryad is such an important card is because you're able to early game target what you want to level up. Scrapper will get you into late game, but Dryad you very much need in order to survive early to mid game. You can't just be summoning in 4 things at that cost and leveling up something random that you don't care about, like one of your support cards. And so these are the decks that I would build, but at the same time, you have to understand that these aren't the only option. 1, these aren't the only options. And 2, I'm not going to be able to tell you how to play the deck. And if you understand how to play the deck, then you probably already know the deck. The thing about this mode that I really like is that I don't, as of right now, this is, the first iteration of this event. As of right now, there isn't some secret deck that is beating everything else. The secret deck that is beating everything else is Demon Hunter and Riding Hood. Those are the 2 best decks. A dedicated Demon Hunter deck and a dedicated Riding Hood deck. And I say dedicated because in my free-to-play account, I fought against like a Demon Hunter Blade Dancer Boreas deck or whatever, like somebody who's just like, I'm going to throw all my legendaries into this deck and it'll work. If you see somebody where their sole reason, that's what it was. It was Demon Hunter Banshee. It was a Demon Hunter Banshee deck and it did terribly. If you see somebody where their damage dealer is either Demon Hunter or Riding Hood, and that is the only damage dealer in that deck, those are the 2 decks that you're blocking. You would rather fight literally anything else other than those 2. And there's a part of me that wants to say that 2 of your decks should be Demon Hunter and Riding Hood, just so that your opponent will either, 1, block those 2 decks every single time, just assume that you're never going to play with them, and then build 3 other good decks that you know how to play, just so that they block those. And if they don't block those, play those. Look at a bunch of Demon Hunter, go to like Arena 9, and then look at Demon Hunter playthroughs. This is essentially the deck that I would build. There's an argument that you could make, that you could build, you could put Summoner in here, but I don't think Summoner at level 11 is as good as Summoner at level 13 and 15, which is why most people in regular games play Summoner. The bonuses that you would get off Gift of the Ancestors and One with Nature, you're not getting here. So it's just a regular Summoner. And a regular Summoner is good. But I think Trapper... sorry. I think Trapper at level 11 is going to do more for your deck. Because it slows the field. It does the defense down. Your Demon Hunter is going to do more damage, and you're going to need more damage because you only have 2,000 crit. I think that the Witch, it's obvious. You're running Gift of the Raven, Unstable Magic, Harlequin Dryad, because I think every deck should run Harlequin and Dryad. Dryad with Growth and Gift of Nature. I think there's you could run... Oh, I'm sorry. I meant to run Rage and Gift of Nature. That's what I meant to run. You can try to run Growth, but I think that because Demon Hunter works the way that it works, essentially what you're going to do is you're going to fill the field with... you're going to always fill the field. And you're going to upgrade your Demon Hunters that are on your attack tiles. That's actually another thing. I'll go into that for a second, because I think I've harped on deck building for a little bit. So the way that this works, every single... you have the ability to pick everything. You are not getting a faction bonus, and so that's important to note. I did faction bonus myself for no reason. Whenever I picked something, I did faction bonuses. Prior to, or I picked the same faction on all of the things whenever I built this. Prior to this video, and when I wanted to talk about Random Tournament when it was coming out, when the information was coming out, I originally was going to state that you should run, that every deck is basically just going to run Spear, Mage Robe, Growth Tile, because those are the best equipment. And here's the thing. Here's the thing that I've realized. At Rare, your equipment only gives you 2 tiles. It is incredibly difficult to run only 2 tiles with a growth tile. I would never recommend that. I would recommend 3 or above. 3 tiles so that you can have 2 tiles and then merge on the last one. Merge onto and off of, and then build the other 2 tiles is reasonably easy, but it's not really good until Legendary when you have 2 extra tiles and you can leave 2 things on a tile. At 2 tiles, you're leaving 1 thing on a tile, and then you're trying to merge onto and off of the other tile, and that's just impossible. If that is your playstyle and you really want to do that, you go right ahead. But for me, I think that's really difficult, and I'd rather just run a Magic Amulet. I'd rather, suck it up, take the bonus, take the 11.5% bonus, as opposed to a growth tile that could theoretically give me up to a 25% bonus, if you merge onto and off of the tile. If that is your play style, you go right ahead and get 25%. It's obviously the better one because a 25 is a much bigger number than 11. But I'm just saying that to do that with 2 tiles is really difficult. And I found that when I was playing, I never merged onto and off of the tile, knowing that there was only 2 tiles. If you can merge all the way up to 25%, and I suppose that's not a lot, but you're getting it at the rate of 2% per merge, and that's a lot of merges. If you can do that and then put something on that tile and then level it up that late in the game and then win, and you think that the 2 tiles is that important, you can do that. And if that is your playstyle, you can do that. I'm just saying, I don't think it's great. And I'd rather just have the simplicity of a magic amulet. And, you know, sometimes it's hard enough just to put something onto a tile, let alone merge it off, merge it off, merge it off, and then put something that you want on that tile, then level that up. Like, it just seems like it seems way too difficult for the amount of value that you're getting. Obviously, I would run Spear on every single deck. I am doing that on every single deck. And I would obviously recommend Mage Robe on every single deck, because Mage Robe is going to give you more of a benefit than literally anything else. Mage Robe is the premier equipment to run as your armor. Hunter's Jacket, there was an argument if you were going to build like a specific what's it called, a slowdown deck. If you run like Hunter's Jacket, Weakness, Clock of Power, if you're building something like that, Necromancer, Boreas, if you're building something like that, that is the only reason why you would run a Hunter's Jacket, and in every other case, run Mage Robe. Mage Robe is going to allow you to, if they're not running it as well, it's going to allow you to be further ahead in the game than your opponent. Because you are getting mana at a much, or you're slowing their mana production down, and you're getting mana at a regular rate. At which point, because you're getting more mana earlier, you are going to be further ahead in the game for the rest of the game. That's assuming that they're not running it. And if they are running it, then it's just equivalent. And you're at the same point in the game that they are, because you're killing the same amount of bosses, you're killing the same amount of enemies, and essentially, when you do, because you're killing things at an equivalent rate, if you are getting less mana for it, you are further behind in the game than if your opponent, than if you're not running Mage Robe and your opponent is. If that makes sense. And then in terms of heroes, you're only going to basically run two different heroes. You're either going to probably run Jay or you're going to run Mermaid. I still think that there's an argument for Gadget, but basically everything else, I don't necessarily know if it's that great. I think Snowflake in a robot shaman deck might be good. But in that case, you're not able, like, the thing about your equipment is that you also don't have modifiers. And not having modifiers and not having things like Counterspell affect your deck building. And it affects the way that you still have to get rid of negative effects. You have to assume that you're going to get to a point in the game where you're doing double bosses and you're going to run into a King Pudding and a Dark Priest, and you can't immediately die to that. And if your deck doesn't have any way of dealing with that, like a mermaid, like a level 10 amazing mermaid, if your deck has no way of dealing with that, I don't think that you're going to survive, and the other person's going to win just outright. And so that is going to affect your deck building. With Robot Shaman, most of the time you would probably run Snowflake, but then you won't have any way of getting rid of negative effects. At which point I think I would rather run Mermaid and try to out-damage them, than to run Snowflake and try to kill them in the early part of the game, or the early to mid part of the game, and to try to lock them out, because your talents aren't that great. I have a Robot Shaman deck. I'm using Summoner. I'm using Curse of the Spirit, obviously, so that you can affect them that much earlier in the game as well. Robot, you're using Stun. Shaman is Shaman. And then I'm actually running Dryad so that I can run Fairy of Rage, so that I can build up my robot, because I'm using Mermaid. And I'm able to push into that late game as well, theoretically. I don't necessarily know, because there is going to be so many mermaids running around. I don't necessarily know if running I'm going to try to win early game, even like strategy even works anymore. Trying to lock them out really early on, without having a max frost, a max necromancer, a max robot, trying to lock them out of the game early in the game is almost impossible, because all they really need is like a J, and they can like kill the first wave, kill maybe like the second boss. They can survive for a really long time, and then at least enough until they're mermaid, and then they're just gonna mermaid, and then you're gonna be even further behind. I tried running a Minotaur deck with necromancer, and it did not work. And so I don't know how well Toxic does in this format, even with 2000 crit, because I think that everything is leveled up enough to where I don't think you can lock people out of the game really early on in the game. So I don't know if that strategy is that viable. I have seen Sea Dog strategies work, because you're getting the 11 talent. Most people are using Cursed Treasure and then Deep Dweller, and then just running like kind of like a robot setup. I don't have enough play with Riding Hood. I know that it's good. A lot of people are winning with it, but I don't play it enough to where I feel comfortable playing in the tournament with this deck. I trust that a Meteor Minotaur strategy could potentially work, but again, I don't have play with that. Meteor Minotaur are not thick cards that I focused on. I don't think Inquisitor is a deck to run. There are people running Bruiser J, which I think is pretty funny, especially because you can use No Worries. You can use Awakening Rage and then No Worries, and then put it on a J tile and win. Because you have the Growing Anger on Banshee, I think there's a potential for a Banshee strategy. But you are not getting Banshee's Wail, which is the reason for running Banshee. So I think that is it's not gonna do infinite damage that it normally would. Spirit Master is a little bit different, because most of the time, most people are using it for Storm Power, so that you can run a bunch of other support cards. Because it can cleanse itself, but obviously in this format, it's not going to cleanse itself. You would run Life Surge, Earth Power, and I think that that's a potential. This is my Spirit Master deck. I'm running a Portal Keeper in order to get rid of negative effects, and I am running Sharpened Spear. I think it's Sharpened Spear, Roll Call. I always run Sharpened Spear, Roll Call. I don't need to run Barrier because I should be leveling it up at the same time as my Spirit Masters, and so I should be. It's basically like a Blooming Dash Blade Dancer deck, but it's Spirit Master. I think that Spirit Master suffers from having low attack speed. It also suffers from not having a lot of crit, which your J and your Night Statue are helping you with. I think that it needs Trapper in order to slow down the field, but you are going to get the AoE damage out of the Earth Power, so I think that that's good. And then my strategy on that is just to build on 4 tiles, and then place a Night Statue wherever it is. Build on 2 tiles. Build on the 2 tiles. Place the Night Statue at that intersection. And then basically merge out every other Portal Keeper, merge out every other Night Statue, keep maybe 2 Trappers, that's probably fine, and then utilize every single Dryad on level ups, and just merge out everything and hope into Dryads. But yeah, like, this entire thing, it's just a lot of deck building, and it's going to be based on you. Like, this isn't even to talk about Cultist. you can run Cultists in two separate ways. I would recommend just running Harbinger of Evil because, like I said, running negative impact things I don't think are very good with Mermaid running around. I think that a level 10 Mermaid is going to do very well here. And I think every deck is either going to run Mermaid or J. So you're going to run Harbinger of Evil in order to outlast them. Cultist does insane damage as long as you can keep sacrificing Cultists. I think that you are probably going to run Cleansing Sacrifice. There's an argument to be made that you should probably run Cleansing Sacrifice as well as Mermaid, or run Mermaid and then just run Great Ritual. But that's gonna depend on your deck building, what you decide to want to add. Because you can run Scrapper in this deck, and I think it's very good because you're always hitting Cultists, as opposed to a Inquisitor deck where you could potentially hit a Knight statue. In a Cultist deck, you could potentially auto target your Cultists all the time with your Scrapper hits because that's the only thing that you're running. If you decide to run an Enchant Sword in order to give you another support card, then a Scrapper might be a problem, at which point maybe you run Great Ritual to sacrifice everything and level up everything with Dryads. But I think in either case, you're going to run Harbinger of Evil every single time, because you are going to try to out-damage your opponent. There's a lot of decks here that I just don't have a lot of play with, and so I don't have high opinions about them. But yeah, I think that's the basis of deck building. I know that this video is already however long it is currently, and I feel like that is already a long enough time. I can't just sit here and show you how to play every deck because there's a lot of decks that you could build. And I think that there are there's a lot of different things that you can do with a lot of different decks. And you're just going to have to play them. You're just going to have to decide whether or not you want to run Harlequin, Dryad, and Scrapper, or just Harlequin and Dryad and maybe a different support card, or maybe just Dryad and two other different support cards. And those are all choices that you're going to have to make based on things that you also have in the deck. And those are just, I don't know, like there's too much information is what I'm trying to say. There's too much information that I could potentially go into, and this would be a 5-hour long video or a 5-hour, I could talk for 5 more hours about deck building because this entire game is deck building. Royal Trials is very easy. It's just Alchemist and Lightning Mage. Those are the only 2 decks. It's a very easy format. Just run those 2 decks. You'll probably win. This is basically like in the game. If you had every card, what deck would you build? What 5 decks would you build? And it's a very broad question. It's a very broad question because there's a lot of different factors. You're basically talking about literally every card in the deck, in the game, with literally every talent that exists. And that's a very broad question. In actuality, the 2 best decks in this format are Demon Hunter and Riding Hood. And essentially, because at the start of every game, you can block 2 decks, always block Demon Hunter and Riding Hood. Just look through their list, and if it is a dedicated Demon Hunter or Riding Hood deck, block those 2 decks and play against anything else, and it's basically equivalent. It's basically it's a very fair, it becomes a very fair game. I'm going to jump into a game and show you how things work. So the first choice that you have is to block 2 decks. Then you can pick a deck based on, and then after that you get to pick a deck. There are an amazing amount of modifiers. Way too many for me to even want to talk about. There's an amazing amount of modifiers. The modifiers are split into two separate versions. One that is only going to affect you, and one that is only going to affect your opponent. It's usually very obvious which one is going to affect you, except for one that you get very early on in your game as a choice, and it's the one that says chaos. Chaos is essentially the one that's in the tournament modifiers, where where things replace each other. And have the ability to become other things. So your positions will switch, or they will literally just become something else in your deck. Never pick it. I thought that was very obviously something that would affect your opponent. It affects you. Never pick that one. Almost never pick that one. Unless you're playing something like a Robot Shaman deck, probably never pick that one. Even if you're playing Robot Shaman, probably still don't pick that one. It's awful. It shuffles your entire deck. It shuffles all the positions. It changes things into things that you don't want. It's terrible. Other than that, everything else just says what it does. And then if that feels like something that you would benefit from, use it. The points that you're obtaining, and there's different ways that you obtain points, but don't focus on it. Just focus on your deck, which is why I don't even want to go into it. It's like points for merging, points for leveling things up. It's things that you normally do within your play anyway. But if it's not something that you were going to do, I don't want you to focus on it so that you get more points, so that you can get more modifiers, because I never found myself needing points for a modifier that was going to completely change my game, and that's why I lost. Just play the game as normal, do whatever your deck does, and just assume that you will have enough points. And then when the time comes in between rounds, when they give you that choice, then choose that thing. And as a last side note, before I jump into a battle, every so often there will be a duck that offers you a tournament modifier. And by tournament modifier, it's all of the spells in tournament. You'll see a duck that comes up on the right side of the screen to offer you one of these things. They're just these things. Petrify is really good, obviously, because getting rid of a high level unit is really good. If you have a shield spell, my God, take that. An offensive spell, like all of the best spells are the ones that you should probably take. It's like Petrify, shield spell, the power spell, maybe a clone. Everything else is kind of whatever. Bannerlord is actually really good. Because if you throw a Bannerlord right before like a really high level boss, if you just save it, because you can save spells, modifiers only last for that round. But yeah, I'm going to jump into a battle, and you're going to see how this works. It doesn't matter which deck you jump into, because your opponent is going to be able to lock something, and this is just to show you what your decks are. Yeah. So it doesn't matter in this screen what this isn't like if I jump into this and say to battle, this doesn't mean that I'm going to be able to use Demon Hunter, because my opponent is definitely going to block Demon Hunter unless they don't, and then I'll win. So dedicated Demon Hunter deck, always block that. I want to say Monk is the next best. I think Cultist is pretty good. But I think Monk has a longer late game potential. And he left me Demon Hunter. Do I just do that? I think I just do that. He blocks Spirit Master and Monk. That's an interesting choice. It's also interesting that I don't have a Demon Hunter. Chaos. Never pick Chaos. Bad Luck is pretty good. it's going to make their merges really bad. He gave himself surprise, so ironically, he's either going to get a double merge, or he's either going to get a double merge or get no merge, which is pretty funny. I'm going to copy this off so that I can upgrade this guy and hope that another one comes on here, but it did not. This one is perfect. I do have the level up mechanic on my Dryad, so always remember to do that. It's very strange to me that he gave me Demon Hunter. Demon Hunter is specifically, I made it specifically a deck, knowing that I would probably get it blocked every single time, and that I could pick just 2 other things. I can potentially copy Demon Hunter, and with my Mermaid, I would be able to get rid of the debuff, but I'd rather level things up much higher, especially ones on squares. With Demon Hunter, basically what you're going to do is you always want your field full, because that's going to allow you just more options on what to do. But it's also going to make sure that it's going to make it so that you always are able to want to sacrifice and merge Demon Hunters in order for your main Demon Hunter, which is probably this guy, to get more stacks. I am running Dark Pact, so the highest... Oh, let's do this again. The blue ones are affect your field. The grayed out ones affect their field. I am going to have to merge some of these out. I'm not going to run too many witches. I really just want like a witch right here, so that I can have this one affecting, or I can affect that one. So this is a Bannerlord spell that the guy on the duck on the side just gave me. And a Bannerlord like late game is amazing. I'm going to merge this away, because I just want a witch right there. I also have Unstable Magic, but the thing is, because I'm running the Dark Pact, the witch is eventually going to go away if I don't just keep leveling it up. Unstable Magic only works until... it only works on a level 3 or higher witch. To where you get the chance for insta-kills. But if you keep leveling things up, what's going to happen is... I need to level up my Dryad here. What's going to happen... Do I not have a... I need a level 1. I'm just going to merge this out. What's going to happen... is your witch is going to keep getting leveled down. Why is there a pink one? I'm going to run surprise. Actually, that's really good. I'm going to keep that. I'm going to merge these out. I'm going to merge this out. There's one. Shield spell, always buy shield spell. I'm gonna merge this out. Oh, that's pretty good. That's pretty good because essentially what's gonna happen is my Dark Pact is always gonna take this one now. And that's exactly what you want. Because that's gonna allow that to stay. He's not doing well here. He's doing so not well that he just quit. I was going to say, if he continues to not do well, I'm just going to Bannerlord him during the Gorgon round, and he was probably going to lose there too. But yeah, that's how this works. And so the way that your victories work is you really only need 10 battles that you've won. You just have to not lose 5 times and win 10 battles, and you will get every single reward. Again, I would highly recommend saving 500 gems, because 700 magic dust and a magic crystal, which is essentially a legendary, and a pick your own legendary, is insane. But yeah, there's probably a lot more that I could talk about. Like I said, I could talk for 5 hours about deck building. But it's really going to depend on your own experience with this game. Like, if you play Banshee all the time and you know that you know how to play that deck, make that deck, build that deck. If you play Meteor Minotaur all the time, build that deck and have that be one of your decks. But I do recommend that you should probably build a Demon Hunter deck, because Demon Hunter is the best. It's the best card in this game right now, because of how it scales. And with a level 10 Mermaid, it's so easy to run Dark Pact with this deck. And I think Witch at level 11 is really good. I think that I might run Polymorph as opposed to Unstable Magic, because like I just said, and see, this is the thing. In between games, you can also just change your deck. Like, if you don't like something, or if you made a mistake, you're not locked into this set. You can continuously change this in between matches. And you have 3 days to complete this, so you can play this all right now. You can spread it over the course of 3 days. I like the fact that it's not forcing you, because it's not running based on tickets. You're not being forced to play all of this right now. You can spread this out and play this whenever you want. And you can just keep obtaining information over the course of this tournament from other people in order to build different decks. It's a lot of trial and error, and that's what this game is. This game it's a game of deck building and trial and error. And that's my biggest advice for you. It's just like, play a deck, see what works, see why it doesn't work. See, like I just explained in this video, Unstable Magic is really good because you're able to insta-kill common monsters. But you can only do that if it's a 3 or higher level witch. But if you have a 3 or higher level witch and you are running your Demon Hunter with Dark Pact, it's going to probably level down your level 3 witch, at which point you're going to have to level it up again just to get the insta-kill. At which point, I don't necessarily know if that's good. If you should be using your dryads just to keep leveling up your witch. You should probably just use your dryads to level up your demon hunters. So I think I'm going to change that out. Obviously, if I didn't want to run Dark Pact to get the triple the triple stacks, and I ran Cloak of Shadows, that's kind of redundant with Mermaid, but then it gives you double protection, which is also very good. So maybe I don't know. It's just, these are the choices that you make. These are the choices that you make in your deck building, and you have to choose which ones work well together. And that's based on your playstyle. It's based on a number of factors. But yeah, I think that this entire mode is very good. I think it's going to teach people how to play this game. And I think that it's fun that you have the potential to have choices in deck building that you probably didn't have before. Like that you probably didn't have any of these things at level 11. You can build decks that you've never played before. I wouldn't recommend it, because, you know, you only have 5 losses. You can only play around so much. I would recommend you should play decks that you know how to play. But yeah, I like everything about this mode. I think it's very good for this game. And I think it's much more interesting than I thought it was going to